Welcome to the Moxstars podcast. We're back, and I'm Evan Kunai, and I'm here with Christopher Ritter.
What is up?
What is up, dude? Today, we are talking about a few things. We have, first, our pregame action, and that is how Wizards of the Coast has changed the sales model for Secret Lairs. Is that upsetting? Is it contentious? I feel like it is. It's worth sitting down and having a conversation. The other topic we're going to talk about today is creativity in cEDH and how that helps shape the meta moving forward. Before we get into more discussion, if you'd like to support the show, you can do so by finding us on YouTube, where if you're watching this right now, you can see this nice, thick mustache on my upper lip, along with my Raising Cane's bright red visor. And you can also find the show on all major podcasting platforms. Just be sure to like and subscribe on any platform of your choosing. And you can also join our Discord community, where we're having conversations about these creative deck lists that we've been doing. And if you've paid attention at all to the YouTube, you've noticed that we've been putting out more cEDH primers and having more discussion about those as we move forward. And I feel like it's opened the gates for discussion on Discord, because people are more open to posting their lists and getting feedback and saying what is new and creative, and what is a way to approach this that's off axis, in a way that is uniquely myself. So that's another thing that you can do to support the show, is jump on the Discord, and then you can also support us on Patreon. For $3 a month, we have a supporter tier, the official Pepperhead tier, where you can get exclusive early access on the Patreon to the arena gameplay videos that I've been posting. And then you can also get access to 2 exclusive channels where you can post your deck list, get personal reviews by the Moxstars on them, and you also get access to the Dr. Pepper channel. Because if you didn't know it, this is the #1 podcast on the internet for Magic the Gathering and Dr. Pepper. All right. Ritter, how do you feel
about Dr. Pepper? It's a great beverage. It's full of great bold flavors. It's refreshing. It's great hot or cold. Obviously we're all more familiar with drinking it hot, but chill down your Dr. Pepper and drink it cold once in a while. It's pretty good that way too.
I think I've just been looking on Instagram since I've been working with the Moxstars account. I've just been subscribing to anybody who posts anything Dr. Pepper related and sharing it in the stories. So I had to test you there, see how you feel about Dr. Pepper, see if you're truly committed to the 23 bold spices and flavors that you can find in the greatest beverage on the planet.
I mean, is that what people are going to find on the Pepperhead channel, on the Discord? Just a vibe check every once in a while, just making sure they're committed to the Dr. Pepper lifestyle.
Test your loyalty.
I know that's fair. You gotta.
All right.
True Dr. Pepper heads only.
Only Pepperheads allowed in that channel. Let's get into it. Today, this past week, we got a news update from Wizards of the Coast. And it happened alongside this dogs and cats commander deck that was being sold. Was announced, and it had a bunch of double-faced exclusive artwork foils, so you could get Anointed Procession, which has needed a reprint for a long time, and it's a double-sided foil with 2 dogs on one side and 2 cats on one side. It's beautiful. Now, the old Secret Lair model would have allowed anybody and everybody to purchase one of these decks because they were printed or basically printed to demand. Alongside this release, they decided that was no longer going to be the model, and that there were a limited number of these decks available, and it was first come, first serve. That has created quite the stir, because that was not the intention or the principle upon which Secret Lair was founded. Secret Lair was founded that it was meant to be a one-time availability, a limited time span, where anybody who wanted this build could buy any number of them. They would be printed to demand, and if you didn't purchase it within that window...
Has it always been printed print to demand?
Yep, ever since the beginning. So 2019, when they did that first drop with like the Miri Weatherlight, Duelist, that cat print right there was one of the first of the few. And so that initial launch was like, hey, if you want this, it's only available for this, like, I think at the initial launch, it was like 2 weeks. So a really small window. And so the 2 weeks went by, and if you didn't buy it, you just wouldn't get it. And so it's, and then after that, after the 2 weeks, they would collect all the orders, and then it would take like maybe a month for anybody to receive them. And I think we noticed like a change in approach, I don't know, maybe like a year or a year and a half ago, where they were receiving so many orders, they decided to print some in advance so that when you would place the order, if you place it early enough, you would get part of the first wave and you wouldn't be waiting for a month to get your order. So you could get it, some people would have Secret Lairs in their hands after a week. I think, Ritter, you've ordered a few where it's kind of surprising how quickly you get them. Yeah,
for sure. It was like a turnaround of like a couple weeks versus like when I think they made a change in production. That was my question about, like, has it always been print to order? That's where that comes from. Like, I think there was a change in production where they started printing them earlier on in the ordering process at some point, and it made it a lot quicker versus like having to wait like 6 months, or some people waited over a year for the heads I win, tails you lose deck or things like that.
Yeah.
They got better at getting it out quicker.
Because, that's one way to get burned, right? You're not ready for, like, you release a product you're not ready to produce, which heads I win, tails you lose was a really great example of that. Being burned by that, waiting over a year, not hearing anything back, not allowing refunds, not like, all because they couldn't get the coin produced, was sort of insane. But they've taken the steps in approach to like remedy that over the past like year or so. And now they've said, well, it's not that the quality of Secret Lairs has gone down, which it has. That's not even objective. There are just so many Secret Lairs out there that the artwork or the cards that are being printed in the drop don't speak to the community, which is why they're not selling. And there are certain drops that do speak to the community, like, let's say the Mystic Remora, the one that had like the Utopia Sprawl, the first time we'd seen those reprints in a long time, that really sold well. The Thassa's Oracle print, which I just reached out to you just to make sure you knew how much that was worth now, was a popular
How much is
drop.
It worth, just for the record?
Yeah, a single, like, if you got the foil bundle for that Secret Lair, the Thassa's Oracle on Card Kingdom is worth $80.
Ooh, okay. I mean, that's double the price of the entire lair at the time I bought it.
Mm-hmm. And if you add all the pieces together, I think the Thassa itself is worth $20. And there's a couple other pieces that are like fun commander cards. So that drop in its entirety was worth it, you could say. And that has been ultimately the gamble that people out there who are purchasing them, if you're not buying all of them, which I know some of you are, you know who I'm talking about, UWP Quirt. I know you're buying every single one out there. But if you're not buying every single one of them, and you don't have the money to, you're gambling, essentially, by trying to make a financial investment, which we've said multiple times that if you... Ritter, I'll let you say this one. I know that this is your piece of advice for investing in Magic. Don't do it.
Don't do it. It's not an investment.
Yeah, there's no financial gains to be had here. So Secret Lair, obviously, once you start producing drops that don't have reprints that are highly sought after, or you release 5 basic lands where we're not allowed to get more than 1 in any single drop, like, there have just been questionable marketing and questionable design decisions that have been made that have led to a decrease in sales for this product line. This big change that they've made, so basically the change is it's now no longer print to demand. A limited quantity is being printed, and it is first come, first serve, which the last time we saw this, we really saw this style or this approach to marketing and sales was they did it once with the Here Be Dragons Secret Lair, where there's only 10,000 available. It sold out within 6 hours, which I was lucky enough to get one. But it was one of those things where it's like so many people wanted those Dungeons and Dragons, like the Monster Manual prints for like Tiamat and for Old Gnawbone, and they just weren't able to get them, and now they go for a premium if you want access to that. And so that was the first time they tested the waters here with the Secret Lairs. They didn't change it for a while, but then before that, I would say it was that, it was like that Ultimate Masters box topper set with like Dak Faden and Jace the Mind Sculptor, had an Ugin the Spirit Dragon in it. They only had 1,000 available, and as soon as that went, as soon as that went live, it was sold out in less than 10 minutes. And then you saw it was for $200 you could buy that, and then it immediately jumped because you saw it appear on the secondary market for over $1,000. So each individual Planeswalker was then, on average, worth about $250, which we've seen the price of those come down as we've seen more borderless prints, more reprints of those Planeswalkers. Dak Faden is not really worth anything anymore. But we're now going to see a shift and change. The going price for that Cats and Dogs deck was $150 at launch, I believe. And it is now going for over $1,000 on the secondary market, which is just insane. That's absolutely asinine. And I wonder what the next secret, if we'll finally get valuable reprints and Secret Lair drops, because they will have this like exclusive tag on them. Like, will we finally see?
I don't know. I don't know if any of the trends with Wizards are towards greater value for the customer.
No.
Like, I mean, that's hopeful thinking, but I don't know if that's going to play out.
Yeah, it's I remember back in the day when Black Friday was, you had to get in line, like first come, first serve, obviously get to the door, but then people got trampled on the way in, and we just stopped doing that. But with like online sales, there aren't many safeguards to scalpers on online for online sales. So I just feel like this is just going to be one of those, like the Ticketmaster bonanza that's been going on with like concert ticket sales. It's like we clearly, as Magic players, have an addiction to shiny paper or cool artwork on paper. So I feel in some way there will be people out there scalping 10 to 100 boxes and then just trying to flip it for profitable gains, which is ultimately my concern with the whole thing. We'll see how it plays out in the future. There is so much, like I've appreciated and loved so many of these drops. While I haven't been able to afford a lot of the ones that I love and appreciate, it is a product line that I've been cheering for in the background, because I'm like, let's see let's see these reprints. Let's see, the price of Anointed Procession come down. And then we see this, and unfortunately it's still over $100 for the double-sided foil. All right, Ritter, I think I'm about out of breath there. And my fury, I was trying to contain it, but I'm ready.
I mean, it's a bummer. Like the Secret Lair thing, that was, I don't know how to quantify this, but that was, Secret Lairs were meant to be for the fans, kind of, and it almost seems like a little bit of a betrayal that like they're moving to this system that's really only going to benefit like scalpers who game the secondary market and like hurts fans. Yeah,
it's really, like you said, there aren't really any sales practices that are being committed that benefit the community or the fans. It really only benefits Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast, which is a business model after all, and you do have to make business decisions. But this one feels like, it doesn't cost any more to print a basic land than it does to print one of these, like a card. A card is a card. in the community's perspective. And now we're saying something that prints for 3 to 5 cents, you're just now you're going to be charging us like $60 for each one now. And yeah, it makes sense, but it also hurts because it feels like no one has our back now. Oh, they never did. All right, dude.
Yeah, man, they never did.
No, it was just wishful thinking. Let's get into our other topic, our main subject for the day. It is cEDH oriented. It is competitive Elder Dragon Highlander based. And we're talking about creative deck building and how it helps shape the meta. Now, as if you've been staying tuned to the show, we have talked about creative deck building ad nauseum at times because like we've been wanting to find alternate options to refine strategies that have proven themselves. And if you'd like to if you'd like help statistically in any of these areas to figure out what you should play, EDH Top 16 is the resource that I will praise for the rest of time. As long as I'm a Magic player, that is a great resource because it really compiles what decks are succeeding out there in the world, out in the open. But I've been building far more creative builds than I ever have before and finding success with them in ways that I haven't seen in the past. Because I think what we're seeing now with the way the game has developed is that we're now seeing cards that cost between 4 and 6 mana, that the effect is contributing to off-axis strategies that don't help the already established meta decks succeed any more than they already did. So
the game's gotten a little chunkier, and you're able to try new things because you have a little bit more breathing room because of that.
Right. I think there was just this like definitely a prejudice with cEDH where it was like, if the game doesn't end on turn 2, it's not a cEDH deck. Or like, on the flip side, it's like, I don't want to play cEDH because the game ends on turn 2. It's like, I haven't seen a game end on turn 2 and like, I saw it happen once in a tournament. Once. It's like...
Yeah, I mean, the potential for it to happen doesn't mean that it happens.
Yeah, you should build a deck that has the potential to win on turn 2. Like, every deck should have that thing that says, hey, you know what? It's turn 2. I had the Christmas land hand, and you know what? I'm sorry, the game's over. Like, it also comes down to your opponent's not mulliganing like appropriately or not identifying the threat, or like threat assessment isn't proper, at when you reveal the commanders, right? Because that can like glean a lot of information into what you're playing against is just by revealing the commander. So if you're playing against a Kenrith, it's not likely they have the potential, obviously, to win early, but they're likely trying to strive for the mid game or the late game to establish themselves. But if you're playing against Ob Nixilis, you know what? You should mulligan for removal. You should absolutely 100% like have some sort of removal here to deal with that, or like Rogsai. Like, see Rogsai at the table, mulligan for some sort of interaction, because otherwise their whole game plan is to win on turn 2. And if they don't win on turn 2 or 3, then they're pretty much out of the game. So it's just, there's a lot before the game even starts that contributes to cEDH and the success of certain decks. But now that we're seeing the game slow down, and I think that's been a talking point on channels like Play to Win as well, where they're starting to see strategies that they've loved for a long time succeed just as well as as the game like slows down in the mid game and other decks begin to rise. So we're seeing a renaissance in a way, right? A new golden era that I am establishing right now. We're in it. You don't know it until it's gone. But the big thing is when you're deck building creatively, or like when you're participating in anti-meta deck building, I should say, is that what you are doing is you're building a deck that is going to test the meta in its weaknesses. So when you build a deck and you build a strategy that is unconventional, what you're doing is you're testing decks like Blue Farm and Kenrith for weaknesses. Not only are you contributing to a healthier, more diverse meta, but you're contributing to the strength. Well, inadvertently, you're contributing to the strength of those decks as well, because they're going to be seeing different strategies that they have to adapt to and be prepared for. But you are also seeing new and effective strategies that sort of like break down barriers and break through walls, sometimes aggressively. Like this weekend, what you'll see on the Moxstars podcast channel on the YouTube page is a new deck list that I believe is very anti-meta and incredibly aggressive in how it is going to pressure life totals. I don't want to glean too much into this new deck that I'm building, but it like...
I mean, while we're talking about being creative, talk about it. I think now's the time to talk about the new deck you're building.
So it's... Well, I'm not going to say what the deck is, but as far as like unconventional deck building goes, there are certain strategies that you cannot omit from a deck. We've seen that certain things or certain cards are proven. Like, I think last week we had talked with Justin, and the end of the episode I was saying like, oh, I have like 3 pet cards in the deck, and he's like, the max is 2. And I'm like, but they work. They're good with the commander. And he's like, okay, you can have 3. But that is like ultimately speaks to how little room for error there is in the competitive scene, where you don't... I
mean, because cEDH is just all the best cards.
Yeah,
like the best deck is literally the cohesive theme is these are all the best cards.
Yeah, and right, Blue Farm is that. And while I did liken, so if you haven't checked out the Kestia deck list yet, I did liken it to like Tymna in the way that it is worded and phrased. Ultimately, the thing is, Tymna is just by miles like better than Kestia is, because there isn't a restriction on what type of creature can attack in order to net card draw. It is just like, I put out Dauntless Dismantler, I'll put out Tymna the following turn, and then I'll swing and I'll hit somebody for 1 damage, draw a card. It's like there's no restriction on the creature. It can be anything that punches, and which is why Crom is also great, because it's a flyer with haste, comes in immediately and punches and draws you a card. Kestia requires a little bit more setup, but there are certain strategies that I cannot omit from that build itself, where like I'm playing like Bloom Tender, Sanctum Weaver, and I also just sprinkled Kinnan into the list because I need to be able to generate, with like Freed from the Real, since it's an Enchantress build, allows you to generate infinite mana, and you need a sink, and Kinnan just happens to be the best sink in creature-based decks. Would I be better off just playing Kinnan with a lot of these strategies? Probably, but
100%.
It is the pre-game interpretation that allows you to go unnoticed, or it makes people assess your deck differently. So like by putting Kestia...
Here's the question for you. Is playing off meta, is whatever advantage you think you're gleaming from that greater than the advantage you would gain by playing an objectively better commander and giving away that game knowledge?
I think that I learn more as a player and I develop more as a player, like while knowing that those strategies are proven and successful, where like Kinnan just shoots out of a cannon and wins the game a lot of the time. Like its results are crazy, right? I think that it does well for me to play those types of decks in less, I don't know, like where there's less at stake, where I can sit down and like borrow someone's Kinnan deck and play it and be like, yeah, like that's really good. But it also helps me as a deck builder see lines of strategy that allow me to express myself and express like my, that inner part of you. It's hard to explain that the thing, One thing I will say about like building creatively, if you've ever watched Jurassic Park, you're basically like, remember that scene right at the beginning when they see the raptor pen for the first time, and they're like, oh, those buggers are smart. They keep testing the fences for weaknesses. That's exactly what you are. You are a velociraptor in Jurassic Park in an electric pen testing the walls for weaknesses to break through, so that when, until the power cuts out, you're still doing that, and eventually you'll find the weakness, eventually you'll break through. But it is a struggle, and sometimes hopeless struggle, when you're building a deck in cEDH with creative intent. So like including Kinnan in that list after playing a couple like builds is just like allowing, basically with Kestia in the zone, it allows me to approach strategies like playing Shalai and Halar. They're known lines, right? There are known lines with the Red Terror and Heliod that people will interact with if seen. Now, I've seen every deck list on the top EDH or like EDH top 16 that includes Shalai and Halar, and mine, absolutely, I feel way better with mine than than I've seen with these other lists, because everyone is just basically piling a ton of stacks creatures into their list and then saying, I hope no one else wins the game, and then when the time comes, hopefully I can win the game. Where the deck list that I've built, and I'll put the list down below, is very balanced in the way that like it includes a bunch of different card types. So like obviously enchantment focus, that's my style, but like still includes artifacts and battles and creatures and like a balance of sorceries and instants, interaction and ways to like push the strategy forward and generate card draw in ways that people are going to have difficulty interacting with. I'm not just like throwing a bunch of creatures out there and just hoping and praying for the best, which is what it seems a lot of people have chosen to do with stacks decks that I think the strategies have been established by Bloodpod with like Naya. A lot of Naya decks that aren't Rocco are basically just saying like, I can build Bloodpod but without Sans Black and have success here, just knowing that I need to get to a creature to 1-2 combo and win. So by playing those lists and by testing those things out, you do start to figure out lines that work better for you as an individual rather than the whole as a community. So that is me saying you can look at top seed EDH or like EDH top 16, but when it comes to the actual deck building process, you need to be able to step away and do it yourself. You need to like take the training wheels off eventually and find what's going to work best for you. And this will ultimately, 1, make you a better player, 2, test the meta in new and unique ways and result in more wins for you individually than what the statistics are going to show. There are certain commanders that you can pick that obviously will have a lower chance of winning, but you can hide what strategy you're going for a little bit better for that like pre-game deception. The last thing I'll say about building creatively is that for me, it feels like when I draw cards and I'm playing cards out, there's a rhythm. There's like every deck has a different rhythm. Every deck has a different feeling. Every deck has a different song. It plays the tune differently every single time. And ultimately what you're searching for is the ability to build a deck that is consistent enough that is going to play that song every single time, which is why Blue Farm is so successful. Blue Farm is Ariana Grande. Like every song is a banger, every song comes out and it succeeds and it oftentimes wins many, many, many awards. But if you are making indie music, there's less chance to be seen, there's less opportunity for you. Every single artist has a different style, and you are your own artist. You are a sculptor of this deck. It's going to play a song for you every single time it plays. And that is what I'm thinking about when I'm playing a deck out, even if it's just playtest hands, is like, what is the rhythm? What is the rhythm of this deck? Every single card that comes out of the hand, the timing of the play, like how the plays chain together and how they are structured. All of that contributes to the overall symphony that is your creative build. But yeah, that's pretty much what I've got on creative deck building. I think that there's now is what I'll say is now is the time. Like we are seeing a change in the meta that has allowed other decks to rise and create equal opportunities with new cards that have been introduced to the pool. So if you were out there and you were like wondering if like the format is stale or if it's or if your meta is stale, there's more opportunity than ever right now to get out there and build creatively than there has ever been before. The format is slowing down. The games are often going into turn 10, 12, depending on the skill of players and the level of interaction. So it is open and fair game out there. Obviously, go out, feel as you do, play to the best of your ability, and build whatever deck exemplifies who you are as a player. But don't be afraid to get into the format. Build something crazy like UWP Quart has with his Child of Alara deck that popped up on the Discord server. And he placed second, by the way. I don't know if you saw that, Ritter. A Child of Alara deck placed second at a tournament in the Midwest.
Well, that sounds to me like if you want to play off meta, now might be the time.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. All right. I feel like I've been speaking ad nauseum.
Speaking of
about the
meta.
Yeah. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Moxstars podcast. And if you have your 2 cents to share about creative deck building, please do so in the comments below on the YouTube channel. You can also join the Discord server and start a discussion there. There is a specific channel called Channel Discussion, ready and waiting to happen. So if you like to support the show, please do so by finding us on YouTube, where you can like, subscribe, and hit that bell for more notifications. You can also find us on all major podcasting platforms. Leave us a stellar review. And the best way to support the show, and I should have said this at the top, but I'll say it at the end, is make sure you're sharing the show. Share the show with all of your friends, anybody who you might think enjoy this type of content. Help the channel grow in any way possible. We appreciate every single share, every single like, every single subscription. You can also support us on Patreon, where we have that new superstar tier where you can schedule one cEDH session or pretty much any session of any format that you want to play. Schedule a game with the Moxstars where we will record it and post it as an episode for future content. So if you want to showcase a deck that you're building creatively, or not creatively, whatever you want to do, you can subscribe there and help us and get yourself out there for new content. That's all I've got, Ritter.
So you're still keeping this new deck you're building top secret?
I am. I'm not gonna put it out there yet. Otherwise,
is the commander a new printing?
It's a dinosaur.
Something new. Oh, it's a dinosaur. Okay.
That's a dinosaur.
Got it.
Yes.
Top secret dinosaur.
Top secret dinosaur. The inspiration comes from Jordan. I think Jordan was the one who introduced me to the commander. So it was a deck that I feel like now, more than ever, since we have the opportunity to succeed in a tumultuous time here where things aren't quite established in cEDH, that this thing can succeed. And I'm hoping that more tournaments that I play and the more games that I play, that this can eventually make and crack the top 16, maybe in the next couple months. We'll see how it plays out. Anyway, we kicked some ass today, Ritter. Thank you so much for listening to the Moxstars podcast, and stay tuned for more content as we ramp up and continue to move forward in our everyday lives.
Yeah, keep an eye out. Heaven's been posting a lot of little mini vids throughout the week. We got regular content now. Super funny stuff. If you don't know what a milker is, you're going to have to check out the most recent short. Yeah, definitely Google milkers. See what happens. We're going to be the first thing that pops up. I guarantee it. All right. I'm getting out of here, Ritter. All right, man. I'll catch you later, dude. And peace. See ya.